So we'll get started. This is the Development Review Board of Burlington, November 8th. We're live and on Zoom. Just like you know, we take up items that they are on the agenda. And when we call each item, we ask the applicant to come up to the table. Oh, there you go. The chair out of it. Yeah.
Pick up the items on the agenda as they are listed.
Seamlessly going.
Seamlessly going. For a while, so first item on our agenda.
So we do have Nate Lavery here today, acting on behalf of Lee Perry for Department of Public Works. So we're at 702 Lake Street, if we're taking these in order.
Yep, so this is ZP 23-464, 702 Lake Street, City of Burlington. Conditional use of existing site, City of Burlington, Church Street, Marketplace, snow storage. It's the applicant here. We haven't.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
You want to take up there?
Okay, I'm just going to make a disclosure. On occasion represents the city and certain environmental matters. We've never worked with the city on this particular matter or permit. I don't think my participation raises any concerns, and I can rule objective on it.
Thank you. So, you raise your right hand. Is there anyone else here to speak on this application? Raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is true? All right, so let us know what the project is.
So this is our seasonal snow dump where we clear snow from many of the streets, a lot of the neighborhood streets, Main Street, around parking meters. Church Street Marketplace also clears Church Street of all their snow. They typically pile up their snow for the night and they haul down the snow during the day. We typically, most of our work with it is clearing the night. 3 a.m. start clearing snow around the parking meters, especially around the downtown for businesses and stuff like that. And we'll start hauling down to this area to store the snow until it melts off in spring. It's burned, so the melt, as you can see around the outside, it's all burned. All the melt will run off down through the dirt, vegetation, and everything else. It also catches on all the paper and everything else that ends up with the snow that we remove. And we go down, we send a crew down in the spring to clean that all up, so it looks like it goes back in the picture again.
Okay.
This was reviewed by the Conservation Board Monday night. They have approved it every 2 years when it comes up. They did make a comment that the site has been very clean and is a much better use of the area than the old use of a petroleum storage area. It was unanimously approved
Okay.
with the conditions that were recommended by staff.
You've done this for several years now.
Yes.
Are there any members of the board who have any questions about the application? No? Are there any members of the public here to speak on this, Zoom or otherwise?
No one from the public on Zoom.
You know, this is a public hearing agenda item, not a consent agenda item, but I'm wondering if the board would entertain an approval just now. Seems relatively straightforward.
Yep, I would approve.
So moved.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Brad will second it. Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay.
The only comment we've had in all the years is not slamming stuff, but that's in here.
Yeah, that's already in there.
Is it going to snow? Is the next one?
Not for a while, I hope, but yeah, we try to instruct all the guys to make sure they watch the tailgates. And the Church Street Marketplace usually hauls during the day.
Yes.
All right.
Let me just see if I can get this up.
Every day for the next 6 months.
1, 2, go.
Those are your downloads.
Yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
yep,
That's it.
I know. If you have any problems with your connection on your iPad, please let us know. We'll help you.
So next item on our agenda is 1127 North Avenue. ZP 23-473. David and Hawk, conditional use for review for proposed construction on this. In addition to the can you raise your right hand? And anyone else who wants to be heard on this, raise your right hand. You swear that testimony you're about to get is true and correct, or means and is perjury. Yes. All right, so
This is a reapplication from a permit that expired.
also a reapplication. Okay. Any changes to what we previously saw?
No. Just change of use, hopefully veterinarian will be occupying space.
Okay. Members have any questions? Did you get a chance to look at the staff's findings on this?
I guess I have one question. I mean, this is not necessarily critical, but I'm curious. Usually veterinarians has a little bit of outside green space. I think it's for walking dogs. Is that not?
Right, no, he definitely wants that. Maybe a little bit out the back, I was trying to put it in a different building and, wouldn't want to be able to use it, so.
There is some, I'm aware the theater used to be,
Correct.
that's the only grass, that's some of the biggest piece of grass you got.
Yeah, so what's in the front now by North Avenue.
Yeah.
There's not a lot, but there will, I'll have a back door. There's probably 10 feet between our property and Letting Park Road.
Is that on your property or is that public property, the space?
That would be on our property, it would be the setback area.
And I know I've dealt with some vet offices before. You need to do anything with wastewater to address it. I know some, depending on the services provided at the office.
Sure,
If like surgical or not.
right, I don't believe he's planning on doing any surgical, but we'll have to look into that because I do not have that.
And Mary, that would be something afterwards with Public Works if they needed.
If they need a state wastewater permit, that would be
Right.
determined.
We do have a blanket state wastewater permit for the
Yeah.
whole property. But we'll have to update that with the.
And the letter of water and sewer capacity, you're correct on that with water
So
resources.
it's like a standard condition.
I think unless if it's nuclear, you gotta sort of, my God, something like that.
Sometimes it's over. It's not our,
Yeah, sure.
See. Any other questions from the board? Yeah, no? But any members of the public?
If anyone online wishes to speak, would you raise your hand, please? And I have none.
All right, guess I'll see if the board would entertain a motion on this one. It seems pretty straightforward.
Make a motion that we approve the application of staff's findings and recommendations.
Second, Jeff, second. All those in favor?
Great, thank you.
Dogs and cats are.
I get all the fun.
Controversial, but.
Yeah. Yeah. As long as they don't play pickleball.
Yeah.
That's far enough away.
That offices can be controversial. Last one, certificate of appropriateness, ZP 23-474, 7276 Elmwood Avenue. This is PBPC and Michael Albanos, reapplication expired. ZP 21-509 to construct 3-unit residential townhouse. So again, this is a resubmission of an expired project, is that right?
That's correct. There are a few site changes, but they're quite minor.
Okay, Mr. Evans, would you walk us through the site changes, what changed from the last time we saw it?
Can I bother you for the site?
Sure, which would you prefer?
Existing conditions to start.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Please raise your right hand. And is there anyone else on the line who wants to be heard? And repeat after me that you swear that the testimony you're about to give is true and correct.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So this is, like Mary had mentioned, a reapplication of a previously approved project. Let's say about 1.5 years ago. We sort of came in to get our building permit. We realized the zoning permit had expired. So we're excited to get this project moving. There are some minor changes that we had from the previous application to this one. I think from the site plan, the only change that we had was the handicap accessible parking that we had. I don't believe on the previous application, I'm quite sure we didn't have that particular parking spot designated with an alley provided for handicap parking. We decided to move it because it's proximity to the two houses. And that way, if there is need for anybody to use that handicap spot, they don't have to cross a parking lot in order to get there. We also, I believe, so I apologize, I don't have the other application in front of me, but we did designate before, I think, some gravel between the bike shed and the actual shed that is currently located on the property. I think what we needed to do is just make sure we quantify that amount for staff and make sure it was within this lot coverage that we had. If I'm not mistaken too, Mary, I don't believe we had the mechanical pad listed on the property.
You did, but you hadn't identified the equipment on it, but the location was included.
Okay.
As it is here.
Okay. Other than that, I believe all landscaping details are exactly the same as the previous application. The size of the building is the same, the unit count's the same. That from the site plan, from the elevation. Yeah, Mary, I don't know if you want to go to the north elevation. We made minor changes to the north elevation. The previous application had what I romantically call Juliet style balconies, where they have sort of sliding door on the upper level and has a balcony that's abutted right to the sliding glass door. We decided, based on a couple of other projects we've done recently, we've decided to omit those and just go to classic windows on the north side of the building. I guess maybe the owner didn't want to look out at a graveyard, have people, upsetting the people in the graveyard. So
That's the south elevation. Here is the north elevation.
So we originally had, those are bedrooms on, I think they were on either end of the building. And we had originally, like I said, we had Juliet style balconies that were where you open a sliding glass door. There's a balcony right there to protect, for a falling hazard. The other change
Sorry, are those still included on some of the windows? I'm just looking at the elevations. It looks like there's still some balconies around. Maybe I'm looking at an old plan set of
Right here.
east elevation.
I apologize, that's an error should have been deleted. So that
No balconies.
there's no balconies on the property. I will say, on the elevation set, there is a call out for hardy board. We would like to ask staff if we can do additional approval to change that to like what we call it, what we've been using on our other projects, LV Smart Side. It's a wood product that we're using. I think it matches the design intent of what the city's looking for in terms of the quality of products. It's a wood product. Essentially, it's a sort of a. I think it's essentially like a sawdust. They emulsify, they put together, and they sort of shoot out out of a mold. It's a great product, and we've been using it. It seems to work out very well.
You've been using it before,
We have, yeah.
and seems to hold up.
It's relatively new, so I would say within the last decade, it's come out. But what, just for conversation purposes, the hardy board is, it's heavy. And when the contractors are cutting it, produces a lot of dust, they have to wear a mask. Most of the time, sometimes it doesn't come primed, so they have to prime it and paint it, where the product that we're looking at is already pre-primed. And it holds paper well too, before it comes painted. So it's a good product, we like it, so.
I assume it'd be the same orientation and same.
All other aspects of the design stay exactly the same. We won't be using, I don't think we'll be using hardy board. Looked at staff's report, everything looks good. Again, I don't have any comments, that I think need to go over. Happy to answer any questions that you have. I think my only other comment is I think, we're just excited to get this project going. And you guys know this site, this is certainly going to be, it's certainly needed. The existing site this particular area has been developed for a number of years. I think as soon as we get approval, we're going home and ready to get started on it.
Could you explain the basement and the access it?
It's
foundation.
Yep. It's not a finished basement. There is some use of storage there for I think for the owner. It's primarily only accessed through a Bilco. You have to open up the doors on the east side of the building, and there's a set of stairs that go down towards the basement.
I think you're utilizing some of the stone foundation that's still there.
That's exactly right. Primarily, we had structural look at that existing concrete, red stone foundation. We are utilizing a majority of it on the north side of the building. It's deemed structurally, it can hold the bearing capacity of the building. We won't be using it on some other answers because I think we're expanding a little bit of the, I think I'm not sure exactly on the south side of the building how much we're going to be utilizing, but on the north side you can see that we're using some of the structure. But yeah, there's a little bit of like a shelf in the basement that we're going to encapsulate and put a new footing in to hold up some of the existing structure too, etc.
So it says unit 100 storage, 101 storage, 102 storage, but it would just be.
I think the owner wants to keep placeholders in case people do want to use it for their personal storage.
Yeah. Staff report, I think, refers to Arbor for IT or something like that. I didn't see it on the plans. I somehow missed that note or show me somewhere what the plantings are. I see the plantings on the plan, I just don't see them labeled.
Well, it's definitely, I think we're putting one on the civil plan or on the Elmwood Ave side.
Yeah.
Or,
We're putting two in there. That's not
there
right.
too. I think two, yeah.
They show up in the rendering too.
Yeah.
And there also shows some foundation planting on the rendering. Is that any plan to put any planting on the street side of the building? Green space there.
It's on the civil.
It doesn't show it. It shows it only in the rendering. It doesn't show it in the plans.
Then, if it doesn't show up on my civil drawing, then forgive me, I don't know if But that's what it may have been, the rendering I produced, Trudell did their work on it. And so we're definitely planting right there where Mary's
Right
pointing.
here.
Yeah.
But on the civil plan, on the up front of the building, yeah, I don't have any plantings there.
Right now it's long there, you have to mow it and stuff.
Yeah, and it does slow. There's
A great change.
yeah, there's a great change between there and the.
Yeah.
So, sure.
It was like all windows are single hung or double hung. Are there any casements?
I don't believe we've designated casements.
Brad, you got your casements necessary for?
They can be open. You guys open. I think it was double arm.
Brad or Mary, any comments on the siding choice? I didn't see anything, Mary, in your report on that. We've
On
had a
the
lot of
siding.
conversation about the siding materials historically. The experience with this product.
We use the smart time. People seem to like it, builders seem to like it, owners seem to like it.
Any further questions from the board? Is there anyone online for this project?
If you have any questions about this project, would you please raise your hand? And I'm not having any interest here.
All right, close the public hearing on this.
I just want information. Yes. And I add the LP as a condition, or is that something I have to come back?
I'll reopen the public hearing. Sorry. What would you like to add as a condition?
That per staff approval, we can modify the elevation to omit the party board and replace it with the LP smart side.
Close the public hearing. All right, thanks. You guys need to discuss this one, Jeff?
I don't make a motion.
Yeah, go ahead.
So on ZP 23-474, which is 7276 Elmwood Avenue. I move that we approve the application and adopt staff's findings and recommendations. I guess with the expectation that a revised elevation set would be submitted showing the different siding and also removal of those balconies that are still on the current set.
Brad seconds. Further discussion, questions? At that end, no? Once, twice, all in favor? Right, there you go.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it'll be good.
So that concludes our public hearing agenda. We have some other business. We have two items of other business, a DRB bylaw amendment. Well, just one item, a DRB bylaw amendment. Mary, do you want to explain that to us briefly? Seems pretty self-explanatory, but.
Yeah, it is. I hope it is. The bylaw amendment is to allow staff to view administratively those review items that previously would have required DRB review, but no longer. They're either related to changes in the Comprehensive Development Ordinance or the Home Act, specifically the approval of duplexes, triplexes, and quads, as now allowed by the legislature and state statute. If there's new construction where there's a trigger that you would see it anyways, like construction of a new 4-unit building, it would still come to you. But we're talking about changes of use, which now by the Home Act can be permitted administratively. So that is the purpose for the bylaw addition, only to say there are some situations now because of changes to statute or changes to the Comprehensive Development Ordinance, there will be administrative authority.
Now, is that The ordinance has not been revised yet, right, to show this change?
It has not been revised,
But that's.
and this is what's suggested here at the end. We gotta get to the meat here.
That's for our, that's a change for us.
That's a change, those are changing your rules.
Right, but what about the ordinance? So people looking at the ordinance to see that they can do these things.
Well, admittedly, the ordinance is changed periodically with zoning amendments to reflect technical changes,
Yeah.
statutory changes. Just like we did with accessory dwelling
Yeah.
units, the statute changed and it preempted what we were doing. So this will give, the bylaw will give us the authority to act administratively where there already is authority.
The applicant won't know that.
That's what we're here for.
That stuff is all, I think, in the neighborhood code work that, the planning department is doing. A lot of the Act 47 changes are in that.
That's not out yet, right?
No, but technically, I think, technically Act 47, I think supersedes the city, right? So
It does.
even though it's technically not allowed to build a quadplex, anybody could right now on a 6,000 or a duplex on a 6,000 square foot lot.
Statute controls. I was just thinking
Yes.
that the average person
Oh, 100%.
who is gonna go applying,
Yeah.
at the most, they can look at the ordinance if they look at any city ordinance.
The neighborhood code is supposed to go into approval beginning of next year. So I would expect that would be, I mean, that's what their plan is, whether that actually happens or not. I don't know.
has to do with neighborhood code.
Mary, the way the red line is written, it's just to amend the zoning permit that was previously approved to reflect those changes. Is there a situation where a new permit under Act 47 could be approved administratively? I just want to make sure that language is broad enough to cover the circumstances that are contemplated in the statute.
If you feel this language is not concise or there's room in there for it to be misconstrued, I would welcome the language.
I haven't looked at the language in Act 47 to know. This reads to me like all we're giving you is authority to amend a prior zoning.
I don't think that's really what it says, Jeff.
Any zoning application that does not otherwise require DRB review to amend a zoning permit previously approved.
Yeah, that's what I.
It's just
But
previously approved.
it's to amend a zoning permit previously reviewed, approved by the DRB to reflect changes in the applicable state statute or a comprehensive development ordinance.
Right, but the way I read that is this gives you authority. If there was a zoning permit previously approved by the DRB for an existing project, this gives you the authority to amend that.
Correct.
Consistent with the requirements in state statute or when the ordinance is updated and/or. But it wouldn't give you authority to issue a new permit administratively. And I just don't know, I honestly don't know.
Yeah, I don't remember the whole
If it is only for existing permitted projects. Or if it would.
My understanding is the bylaw suggestion, which was drafted by the zoning manager, Scott Gustin, was to allow us to exercise what the statute has given us authority to do. Which right now would not be consistent with what's in many zoning districts right now. Triplexes are not a permitted use, but by the Home Act, they now are. Would you like to see greater examination of this language?
If Scott feels like it gives you all the authority you are now allowed under state statute, I don't have any reason to question that. This feels more narrowly drafted than I would expect based on my understanding of Act 47.
So if I'm reading Act 47, right?
What up?
In any district that allows year-round residential development, duplexes are an allowed use, right? So that allowed use, as I understand, is permanent use, which means no DRB review.
Yep.
In any district that is served by municipal sewer and water, that allows residential development, multi-unit dwellings up to 4 units shall be a permitted use, which again, why they use permitted and allowed in the same paragraph, it's just gonna light me on fire. Unless that district specifically requires multi-unit structures to have more than 4 units. So RL district, year-round residential allowed, connected to water and sewer, 4-unit building, Mary and Scott can review. Is that right?
For use, if it's new construction that tips over that.
There's just-
27,000, it would come in anyways for
Like a
development.
major impact. Or,
Wouldn't be major impact, but it would come in because it comes in over the 27,000 threshold for a COA level 1.
okay. Comma, but if somebody had a single family and was converting it to a 4-unit, where would that fall?
We would check the density calculations for the lot size. And if the density
Wow.
is consistent, then it could be permitted administratively.
What would that be within the bylaw change, that last example or not?
Yeah, what if that single family use doesn't have this previously approved DRB permit?
Right. Would you be able to review that under that bylaw change, or would that?
We're only talking about changes of use that the statute now allow, which either previously were not permitted or were conditionally permitted with your review. And now the statute says single family to 4 units can be permitted, as long as the density works. Under the neighborhood code,
Yeah, the density
the
requirement.
density is gonna go out the window if it's adopted as it's proposed.
It sounds like you all are comfortable with that zoning, that bylaw change gives you the authority you think you need. It may be, AJ and I are imagining a situation that just isn't gonna occur.
You guys are the words.
Because there's some
Might be here for a while.
there's some use that doesn't have a permit right now. But could, under the statute, have up to 4 units.
Are you talking a house that was built in the 60s or something?
Sure.
Right, yeah.
By the statute, right now, if the density works for them, they can have up to 4 units administratively. Do you want to think on it for a meeting or two?
I think if you're comfortable with it,
Yeah.
we'll let the problem appear before we solve it.
Yeah,
Well, the problem is it won't come before you.
But it will, because someone will say you don't have authority to
Correct,
approve that.
it'll come before us.
Because it wasn't a previously issued permit.
Yeah, I think to me, in the spirit of Act 47 and making it easier to provide housing, I think it makes sense to allow this stuff to skip our process. So.
Yes, it's only gonna come before us if the neighbor appeals the permit after it's issued.
Yes. Yeah. And says for some reason this doesn't fit within the bylaw.
Well, Depends on how much effort they want to put into writing it down.
And any factors or variables that are involved in this, in the development ordinance, you would. List down those things and decide on those. You would.
Wherever we have regulatory review, we will go through those steps, just like we do for writing staff reports. I mean, I think we're all learning what this means. And we're just, by suggesting an amendment to our bylaws, it's an understanding that the rules have changed and maybe you will not have authority over some of these applications. So it's an understanding that there will be administrative authority.
It's a huge impact in some neighborhoods. So it could be exciting.
Yeah.
Could be, I think it's just being interpreted,
I think
it's being applied very often.
it'll see, the California version of this did not have a lot of uptake initially, so. I'm hopeful that it has more uptake here, but I know I've seen some municipalities do some interesting legal language to try to not actually implement the 47.
It's also a lot of limitations about its water and sewer. Yeah, right, I mean, there's only so many places that it's really fun. Yeah. So do we have to approve that, Mary? I'll move that we approve the bylaw amendment as proposed by staff.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor? Okay.
That's our agenda.
What does the next one look like? We're rolling through these, Mary.
Joseph, what do we have for the first meeting in December?
First meeting in December, nothing so far.
Wait, we're already into the
So,
first meeting.
so the one before Thanksgiving is definitely,
I think there are 3 items on the next meeting.
but that, I thought that I saw that was happening.
That's a date, that one.
8 plus